It says a lot that you're here. It speaks volumes about who you are. Because to come here means you're willing to take responsibility for your own consciousness. And this is the most significant thing we can do for world peace, for the planetary climate catastrophe. So you are welcome. And Noel, would you like to do your introductory piece for us, please?
Good morning, Sangha. My name is Noelle Whitliff. I'm the children's mindfulness teacher here at PIMC, and I'm also a member of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Portland Insight Meditation Center recognizes and honors the Indigenous peoples of this region on whose ancestral lands the center now stands. We also want to recognize that Portland today is a community of many diverse Native peoples who continue to live and work here. We respectfully acknowledge and honor all Indigenous communities, past, present, and future, and are grateful for their ongoing and vibrant presence. And now I'd like to offer a welcome on behalf of the DEI committee here at the center. We welcome each of you and the many cultures represented here. We welcome those of you of African, Asian, European, Middle Eastern, Latin American, and First Nations backgrounds, and people of mixed racial identities. We welcome people of all economic backgrounds and current life situations. We welcome bodies of all sizes, abilities, and challenges, whether visible or invisible. We welcome those of you who are new to groups like this one, and those with a great deal of related experience. We welcome all ages. We welcome all faith traditions, those who identify as spiritual or as mindfulness practitioners, and those with other guiding beliefs on how to live our lives. We welcome people of all genders, including people who identify as transgender, cisgender, non-binary, and anyone for whom these labels do not apply. We welcome all sexual orientations. We welcome each of you in all the rich complexities of your identities, including dimensions I've not mentioned here. We honor each of you in this work we are undertaking, and we offer a heartfelt welcome. Bless you. I'd also like to add that this is Transgender Awareness Week, celebrated annually from November 13th through 19th. It's a time for the LGBTQ plus community and its allies to celebrate, uplift, and honor trans and non-binary voices and experiences through education and action. Tomorrow is Transgender Day of Remembrance, a day in which transgender and gender expansive people and allies around the world come together to honor the lives lost to anti-trans violence. I encourage you to check out the Human Rights Campaign at hrc.org for ways to support the community and advance equality and justice. Thank you.
I would like to invite to the altar of our hearts Ruth Dennison, who was my teacher and dear friend for 44 years till she died a few years ago, and is our great benefactress. Without her, this place would not be here. And in fact, I think in honor of this whole morning. This is a little bit of Ruth's cremains. If you're ever interested, or maybe you've never even seen such a thing, you could come up to the altar and twist off the top. And what you see inside is a little piece of bone. It's very obviously bone. Very cremated, but so I invoke their presence this morning. Funny, I can't do that with my left hand. Why is that? There it is. These are very common reliquary, as they're called, in Thailand, which is where it comes from. All right. This particular lineage of light comes from Burma, Thailand. Teachings of the Buddha. Is this coming out up above? Anybody here for the first time? Welcome. This is a little modern rendition of something known as the refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And it goes like this. I take refuge in being awake. I take refuge in what I discover when I'm awake. And I take refuge in the community of practice down through time and now. And I like to extend the Sangha to include the community of all life. There's a lot of us here on the earth. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya. All right. Let's take the bus home. Let's hold each other's hands and walk toward home. So, as the Buddha directed, find a place to be protected from the elements. Sit comfortably upright and head for home. We're going to spend a little while, half an hour, letting go of thoughts, letting go of activity, ambition, embracing whatever arises. Noticing the fact that the body breathes. It's been doing this sacred function ever since the moment when your mother could no longer breathe for you. Carbon dioxide built up in your bloodstream and the gasp occurred and you took birth, you came to life. And just like every other human being on the planet, you've continued to breathe constantly. And will do so until your lease on the body expires. Breathing in and knowing it. Breathing in, breathing out, knowing it. Yeah. Of course, most likely the mind will wander. But let's not start another war, another pointless, hopeless war. Violence doesn't work. And so awareness will illuminate the wandering mind. And we can choose to reestablish contact with the present moment, with in-breathing and out-breathing. You can notice, is the mind wandering episodically now and then, or maybe it's just one long wander? While concentration does build in time, the goal isn't to stop the wandering mind. The goal is to wake up, to be aware of what's happening moment by moment. There might well be visits from the five hindrances, from desire, from wanting, grasping after something, or aversion, striking, the mind strikes out and is aversive to what's happening. There might be restlessness and agitation or worry. There might be doubt. Does this work? Is the Buddha for real? There might be sloth and torpor, sleepy dullness. None of these are mistakes or a problem. They are, in fact, that which we create our awakening out of. One strategy for helping to remember what we're doing is called noting, in which case we, with a very small percentage of the mind, point out, breathing in, chest rising, rising, chest falling, falling, rising, rising, falling, falling. Then when you wake up in the midst of a wandering mind, wandering, wandering, returning, returning, rising, rising. Rising, rising, falling, falling, wandering. And sometimes it's obvious. It might be worrying, worrying, or planning, planning. Let us notice clearly the difference between a wandering mind and being present here. They're radically different. And wandering minds can contain anything. The human mind can be conditioned to do or think anything. And so we come back with great patience, great gentle kindness, 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, 1,000,000 times for the rest of our lives. Waking up. Every moment of consciousness involves a planting of seeds, karmic activity. We are planting the seeds of mindfulness. And mindfulness is the central foundation of awakening. Along with it come curiosity and persistence and joy, tranquility and concentration and equanimity and patience love, compassion. Mindfulness practice is really useful for stress management and basic psychological health and well-being. It's much more than that, though. This is a practice tradition which emphasizes liberation from suffering. For oneself and for all beings. It's not a small thing. And so we sit and become aware of breathing in and breathing out. We become aware of the thoughts and emotions. We become aware of the fine, admirable parts of our personalities. And the parts which are still rather primitive. Which can do such harm so easily. But we take responsibility. We sit down here and come home to this breath in this moment. Discomfort may well arise. We learn to sit with minor discomfort as a way to bring peace into our lives. If we're always moving away from discomfort, we can never relax. Sometimes it turns into actual pain, in which case we pay attention to the sensations, go beyond the story. Where does this pain exist really? Is the pain the problem, or is it the disliking of the pain? Coming home to ourselves. Breathing in and breathing out. Please now let us notice the life, the aliveness in the feet and legs. The life which is the contact of the chair with the buttocks. The life of the hands and fingers. The life which is the throat and neck. The jaw, the cheeks, the lips. Notice the aliveness of your tongue inside the mouth, and maybe let it move around a little bit. Pretty remarkable thing. Let it touch here and there. Let's notice the aliveness in the nose. Way up high in the sinuses where the air rushes through. The forehead and the scalp and the ears. And the eyes. Notice the eyes. They're alive. And notice the intention in the mind to open the eyes. And then notice the effort to do that, to do so, to open them and to let them open. They open, and then there's something very miraculous, seeing. Consciousness of seeing. Hmm. Seeing. When we're mindful of seeing, we can also notice the blinking. I mean, mostly we never notice that, right? But all these number of times an hour that we go blind for a second, bam, gone. Necessary to keep the eye lubricated. Seeing. And as I am wont to do, I invite you to look around, turn around, see who's here. Let your eyes make contact with some other eyes. On here on Zoom, I guess we can just look at each other. Right. Consciousness meets consciousness. What if it's true that there's only one consciousness that takes birth in all these different forms? That'd be a relief, wouldn't it? Well, I have a few announcements. I have a couple from Candle. Candle Summers. Tonight, Sunday night, Insight and Metta. We'll be talking about gratitude and the modernization of Thanksgiving. And then in a couple of weeks, December 2nd is a day-long retreat, Shining the Light of the Dharma, from 10 to 4. And then a week or two after that, she's doing her solstice gathering with bells and bells and whistles. No, and to welcome in the change of seasons with her friend. Forget her first name. Her last name is Moses. And look at the website because there's lots of things starting up. Trina is setting off into teaching. If you want something to do on Thursday, on Thanksgiving, from 9 in the morning till 9 at night, Trina will be here. And if you want something to do the next day, from 9 in the morning till 9 that night, she will be here. And if you want to do something on Saturday, she will be here from 9 to 9. She's also starting a Tuesday night class, and the BIPOC group on Mondays is underway. 6:30 tonight is the Be Queer Now group. Anything about volunteering? We probably need volunteers. I saw Doug, there you are. You want to come up and, oh my God, have you got a joke? I don't need to put you on the spot, of course.
Good morning, Sangha. My name is Doug. I'm the volunteer coordinator. I actually have a short poem today about identifying our nature and embracing it. This is The Early Bird by Shel Silverstein. The early bird catches the worm and has a meal for its dinner plate. The early bird catches the worm. So if you're a bird, be an early bird. If you're a worm, sleep late.
That's good.
I just wanted to acknowledge some of the volunteer efforts that support the teachings here. And then I'll have people raise their hands if you've done this, and you'll probably find that probably sitting next to a volunteer or volunteer yourself. Who has brought flowers here for the hands, please, of the flower bodhisattvas? Number of people. Thank you very much. Then we have the opener greeter job. Opens the place up, arranges the chairs, all the lights, opener greeters around. Thank you very much. Charlene did it today. We have hospitality at noon, tea, coffee, snacks, healthy and otherwise, through that door at 12 o'clock. How many hospitality people have we got here? Yes, thank you. And then we have a really complex job. We have an easy job, does itself. You sit there and watch all of the audio, visual, and technical aspects that support the guitar playing and being able to hear that, and the overheads, and make the teachings available online. And also, that's not just on Sundays. The tech crew also works some of the other programs and groups. And we would really like another person or two to join the tech squad for easy, enjoyable opportunity. And who else has come here to volunteer for just about anything? I know many of you have come on all sorts of days. Anyway, thank you very much. Help is very appreciated and necessary.
Thanks, Doug. Anything else need announcing? In which case, I'm going to yield the microphone to Jim with the invitation to stay. Unless what's calling you is very important, because I think what I'm going to say today is really important. And yeah. And then at noon, come through and have a cup of tea.
All right, standing and being aware of sensations in our feet. Whenever I move into mindful movement, I really should acknowledge all the Qigong teachers down through the ages, mostly from the Chinese area of the planet, but there's been Qigong passed on for generations, and I often feel that connection and that part of a lineage. So here we go, lifting arms like millions, billions of people have done before us. There's an intelligence in the body that guides healing, stress-free movement. And we all need to learn that from someone. We learn to be conscious of it. The capacity is there, but discovering the capacity often requires a teacher. Feeling the arms rise and open, and being aware of arms rising, closing, sinking. Again, there's this intelligence. Is it in the body? Is it demonstrated by the body? Where is this consciousness? Robert noted consciousness of seeing. We open and just pause. This is the body not gesturing, and we know it. This is the body gesturing and then transitioning to another. As soon as I start moving, the image of my movement becomes part of your intention, your willingness to play the game, aware of connection all through the room. When we see harmony and release and healing, it's a pleasure to jump in and play with the rest of the group. And we have these amazing neural systems that allow us to do this. Sinking, crossing the wrists, lifting, and opening. Sinking, lifting, and knowing it, aware of change. We can't lock into this position. We have to flow through it. Lifting one hand, pressing with another hand. Aware of the spine, noticing sensations up and down the spine as one hand reaches while one hand pulls in, and then rotating through the shoulders all the way. Aware of change here, now, now, now. Changing here, now, here, now. Staying here, now. Moving here, releasing. Pressing across. Turning the wrist, seeing the palm, feeling the other palm oriented to the earth, aware of a cloud moving across the sky, aware of the shadow in touch with the earth. And then a fuller breath, aware of lifting and then releasing. Drawing one hand into the other. Silent, still. Thank you very much. See you soon. Thank you for your willingness to play.
I dedicate this poem and all the words that follow to the people of Israel and Palestine. To the people who walked this land before we were here. To the 1.5 million people fleeing from Darfur recently. The names almost don't matter. It just happens so often. It's part of us. It's a part of us humans. This poem by Kim Stafford is a fine way to begin. Ask about your enemy's wounds and scars. Seek their hidden cause for trouble. Feed your enemy's children. Learn their word for home. Repair their well. Learn their sorrow's history. Trace their lineage of the good. Ask them for a song. Make tea and break bread. Ask about your enemy's wounds and scars. Seek their hidden cause of trouble. Feed your enemies' children. Learn their word for home. Repair their well. Learn their sorrow's history. Learn their sorrow's history. Learn their sorrow's history. Trace their lineage of the good, of the good, of the good. Ask them for a song. Make tea. Break bread. I heard this song first a couple of years ago. Then in August, I was in Colorado at the Rocky Mountain Folk Festival. And the creator of it, the writer of it, Mary Gauthier, was there. I spent about 5 minutes with her. Quite a remarkable person. She decided really to take her songwriting seriously when she got out of prison in her 20s. I've always been a person of strong emotions, and I'm giving myself permission to have whatever feelings I have here today. Because I may well have to stop. Little anxiety, funny. Given the dangers of being alive, what are the risks? I particularly dedicate the second verse to the people of Israel and Palestine. My Father could use a little mercy now. Oh, the fruits of his labor fall and rot slowly on the ground. His work is almost over. It won't be long. He won't be around. Oh, I love my Father. He could use some mercy now. Verse 2. My brother and sister could use a little mercy now. He's a stranger to freedom, shackled to his fear and his doubt. The pain that he lives in is almost more than living will allow. Oh, I love my brother. brother and sisters, they could use some mercy now. My church and my country could use a little mercy now, as they sink into a poison pit that's gonna take forever to climb out. They carry the weight of the faithful who follow them down. Oh, I love my church and country. They could use some mercy now. Every living thing could use a little mercy now. Only the hand of grace can end the race toward another mushroom cloud. People in power, they'll do anything to keep their crown. Oh, I love life, and life itself could use some mercy now. Oh yeah, we all could use a little mercy now. Oh, I know we don't deserve it, but we need it anyhow. Every single, we hang in the balance, dangle between hell and hallowed ground. Oh, every single one of us could use some mercy now. Every single one of us could use some mercy now. Every single one of us could use some mercy now. There's a profound couplet in the Dhammapada, which is a compendium of the Buddhist teachings. Hatred is never healed through hatred. Only through love is hatred healed. Hatred is never healed through hatred. Only love heals hatred. There's been some conversation on the listserv. Should we have a side? Should we take a position? The only position that makes any sense, or the only side that makes any sense, is no side. because this is our family at war with itself. As I was reflecting on wanting to say this today, it's funny just watching the intuitions that come in. And friends don't let friends drive drunk. Right? It's really good advice. Friends don't let friends go insane and kill one another. We're up to 5,000 children in this particular insanity. So I hope I can remember the things that seemed really important that I say. One is those crazed and murderous young men from Gaza who broke into Israel and killed people wantonly did something really evil. That's as dark as human beings get, right? I was reading the other day that most of them were on speed. There's a kind of speed that is outlawed in the United States. They were on a killing frenzy. And they did horrible. I mean, we can define it as a war crime or not. It doesn't matter what we define it as. What they did was not unbelievable, because humans do this with some regularity. I've been talking with a couple of Jewish friends. The impact of those murders on them is devastating. Because they live with a whole history of pogroms and the Holocaust. And they lived with this fantasy in Israel that their IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, would protect them and that they were safe. They were finally safe. And then this thing happened. These young men who are labeled terrorists in all communication killed 1,200 people and took hostages. I want to just take a moment and go over here. I have been a psychotherapist for 25 years, 35 years. Somewhere in the middle of that, I got really interested in trauma. And so I was doing my own work on my own trauma, and I got trained in how to work with people in trauma. And I've worked with a lot of people deep in their trauma. What is trauma? When something occurs to us, when something happens to us, if a simple example is, if on your way home from here today, you were driving along a street and all of a sudden a bus lost control and it was coming straight toward you. And it missed you by a millimeter. Somehow or another, you avoided it. And you would have gone, "Ah!" and screamed maybe, and then you would be traumatized. And then you'd go home and you'd talk to people, you'd be short of breath, and then you'd go to sleep at night, and then you'd go into REM sleep, and the body mind would process the trauma, and by the next morning, probably, you wouldn't have trauma anymore, you'd have a memory. Your system would have had enough resources internally and externally to process, quote, process the trauma and then move on. Well, if your trauma is quite recently, 6 to 7 million of your family members dead in the Holocaust, it's pretty hard to metabolize that. It's up to the individuals, but it's a profound memory. Oh, and what happens if we can't metabolize the trauma? Then every circumstance we go into, the trauma's looking. Is it going to happen again? Is it going to happen again? Am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? And many of you probably know this from something in your own life, some intrusion as a child or some death of a parent or something. That we all have trauma. But the state of Israel was intended to provide a safe place for Jews to call home. And there's a long history. I've done a bunch of reading lately, and I'm not going to try to do the history, but there's a long history of Jews in that region of the world, and the Arabs, the Palestinians, what are now the Palestinians, and from way back. But then after World War II, after this catastrophe, I mean, it's unimaginable, you know. It's not the only catastrophe of that ilk, though, right? Over 1 million Cambodians were killed by Pol Pot. But there was this movement to create a country. And in the creation of that country, a lot of people were displaced. 700,000 people off the land of what's now Israel. And they were they found themselves in Gaza, they found themselves since 2007 in the largest concentration camp in the world, in an outdoor prison, where the calories required for each person were controlled. No one is to blame. Everyone is so lost in their trauma and their stories of survival that they can't feel compassion for the other. And this is a flaw in our human structure. I'm reminded of it. There's a Far Side cartoon of God, the classic God figure with the long white hair, the guy with the long white hair, taking the earth out of the oven, and he says, "Dang, it's only half baked." Well, that's us. We're only half baked. Freud said the veneer of civilization is very thin. We can go crazy really easily. We're also designed for survival, I think, to have strong tribal affiliations and to create self and other, my group, the other group. And we codify this into our religious stories, our books. And then we believe on them, and then we form into groups, and then we're actually able to so effectively dehumanize the other that we can actually kill them. Oh, huh. Do I still want to do this? I think I need to. Yeah. Please, my friends, take a comfortable upright posture. Please notice your breathing. In your one of a kind ever in the universe body, utterly precious. And notice the particulars of your body, your hands, your feet. And notice that this body exists in consciousness. There's awareness of touching, breathing. And you might notice sounds. Notice how this too, the sounds exist in consciousness. They exist inside you. And any thoughts that come, let them drift through the mind like fluffy white clouds on a summer day. Even if they're unsavory thoughts, frightened thoughts, angry thoughts, they just float through, because what you really are is that in which they occur. And so, there's nothing to do. You don't even have to meditate. You can just be here. Perhaps a thought might arise that comes from your past. Some story you learned or that you are. Notice it's a story. Let yourself become that which you really are. Infinitely spacious. Where there's nothing to do, nothing at all to worry about. There's just this moment. What a relief to come home. You don't even need to worry about dying anymore, because you see it's really just an idea. Assuming, accepting, being within the vastness of your true nature. Any thought that arises, you don't need to oppose, you don't need to hang on to it, you just let it come through. And now remembering this separate body that sits here, notice that you really are, you appear to be. You appear to have one tuning in which you're a separate person. And I invite you now to maybe become aware of one hand and let that hand open. Let it move around in space. This is where you have agency, you have a separate identity, you can do things. And become aware of your eyes, your face, and let your eyes open. And seeing and hearing, let each note sing its independent song. The Buddha said, the taste of this practice at the beginning is the taste of freedom. The taste in the middle is the taste of freedom. The taste at the end is the taste of freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from suffering. He also is reported to have said, the ordinary worldling, short of awakening, is capable of any act given the right conditioning. We can believe anything. I know I was a draft age young man at the time of the Vietnam War, but I lived on the other side of a border in Canada. And I thought the Vietnam War was a very important, good idea because of communism. I did wake up before too long, but it's easy to believe in something if that's all you have, which is why nations control the media and why the narrative is so carefully modulated. So what I really, the core, the one thing I want to be sure to say is this. Hatred is never appeased through hatred. Israel will never be safe, ever, unless there's a resolution where both peoples have their own autonomy. You can't bomb people into submission, into peace. It doesn't work. Never has. Right? Those of you that are parents have noticed the times when you tried to force your children to do things. It doesn't work. So this, at the present moment, and I guess I tried to do that guided meditation to remind us of that which we really are, which is, if we don't have access to that, then we take this always as the truth, and then our stress level goes through the roof. If we aspire to be activists, we really must be capable of being completely inactivists. in order to stay loving. Because otherwise we find ourselves on the side. I don't know why I guess I do know why I'm going to say this. There are people at this moment planning what apartment complex will get the next 2,000-pound bomb. It's intentional. "50 people, 100 people will be killed, half of them children. And they know what they're doing because they have a plan. When I turn my heart and mind to that, it's almost unbearable. Right? Almost unbearable. Now, why would they do that? They've gone crazy. Right? They're totally insane. This is why I was saying friends don't let friends drive drunk. And not by way of apology, and I feel anxious in saying this because one sees people pilloried for saying such things, but there is no justification for what those crazed young Palestinian men did, breaking into Israel and killing people. But it's psychologically, it's very understandable. It was a prison break. So, two things I want to be sure I say. One is so important that we practice enough, gather together enough that we can maintain our equanimity and our lovingness and can be kind to everybody involved. Because their wounds are unbelievably deep and vast. And for some of us, perhaps, there's the realm of activism, and a ceasefire really makes sense. It's the only sensible thing. It would interrupt the plan. But the plan's not a good one. Driving the people out of Gaza is not a good plan. Because it will always lead to more violence. Now, what can be done internationally and so on? I don't have the least idea. It's like, what do we do about the Burmese, the way they're treating the Rohingya? Burma, the country of the Dharma, it's gone completely insane too. Myanmar, I guess we would now say correctly. So I don't know. I once asked, I was in Thailand. Oh, I forget his name now. Ooh, he was a Japanese man who was a Thai forest monk, studied with Ajahn Chah, and he had a large monastery right up near the, what is it, the Chinese border? He had taken as his life's work creating meditation retreats for the military and the police and the government people of Thailand. He brought in 500 people at a time and did 10-day very intensive retreats with them. I asked him, America was leading up to one of the Gulf Wars, one of the obscenities. And I said, what can I do? What can we do? And he said, without breaking stride, practice loving kindness. Remember everyone. Practice compassion. Develop your own heart. That's the biggest thing you can do for the world. And that's something that we can do that makes total sense to me, actually, to work with our own power, a sense of powerlessness, that these huge events are happening. What can I do? Well, there may be activism, but there certainly is inner activism, which is stabilize your own heart. In my case, it also means to titrate the news, because I can overdose very, very quickly. I spent several hours with a Jewish friend of mine the other day. The only time when he got energized and angry, I won't use his words, but yeah. No, like, he said, we have to stop those fucking settlers. They've been issued semi-automatic weapons, and they're driving the Palestinians right now. And of course, they've been taking the land bit by bit, bit by bit, bit by bit. And why are they doing that? Because they have a story in their minds. Here I'm going to get in real trouble. They have a story in their minds that comes from an ancient book that says it's all theirs. It's all theirs. Wait, what about those mommies and babies and grandpas and children that are there now and have been living there for their predecessors for 2,000 years? But because of our human frailty, we can believe the stories. When I'm sitting here and the mind goes off and will wander, it believes that wander. While in the wandering mind, it's true. Happened here once or twice this morning. I was way off in some wandering mind and then woke up and said, whoa, that's a phantom. Well, groups of people get caught in those same wandering minds. And the key, the failure is they don't remember the precepts. I undertake the training not to take the life of any living being. They forget. They forget to see the humanity in the other, and it's a terrible design flaw in human beings that we can do that. And we've always done it. We can idealize other cultures and other times, but the people who lived here in North America before the white people got here, they had lots of wars and I mean they were ordinary people. So I want to come back to this. Are the settlers bad people? They're just ordinary people. They're caught in an idea, in an ideology. And if there's anything to the law of karma, they are deeply needing compassion. Because if it's true that we don't get away with things, that it always comes back, can't do what they're doing without a very painful future. And in my psychotherapy career, I worked with a few veterans of the Vietnam War. And I have a plus the fact that when I was in high school, I really wanted to become a fighter pilot. That was my aspiration. I wanted to fly fighters. And it never occurred to me till a decade or two later, when I was deeply into my meditation practice, that I declined at the last minute. I had one more signature and I would have been in the Canadian ROTC and been trained to fly and so on. It never occurred to me that the job I was signing up was killing people. It never occurred to me. But in that, somehow or another, I have this, and because of my experience with a couple of pilots from Vietnam, I have concern and compassion for those pilots. They're doing really bad things. And they know it. But they've got their ideology over the surface of it. And it's going to plague them for the rest of their lives. They're not going to be able to sleep. Their marriages will fall apart. Because they're doing really unwise things. No sides. All sides. Compassion for everybody. Human life is so damn difficult, even without a war, when everything's going great. So, I hope we and they can figure it out. I hope there can be two states living peacefully with each other there and everywhere else that it's happening. And what else would be worthy of praying for or wishing for other than may we learn to live with each other kindly? So I think, let me just see if there's anything else nagging. I think I'm going to pause and ask if there's anything anyone would like to add or share or say. Oh, let me say this one more thing. This is the time for really deep practice. And while I'm at it, I'm going to say this too. Climate change is on us. It's not in the future. It's going to change our lives beyond our wildest imagining. It's going to make the war in Gaza look small. It's time to practice. It's time to learn how to stay loving with each other. So we practice so we don't turn on each other when the going gets rough. So, please Come on up, Abby. Will you come over to this side for me? Thanks. Mhm.
Thank you for all those words today, Robert. If I can find it here. I found it equally difficult to know what to do or what to say because of the situation in Gaza and Israel. And I do a column fairly regularly called Sheathed Sword on Substack platform. I don't know whether any of you see it, but you're welcome. It's free. And for that, and in all of this situation for the last few weeks, I found that my only recourse to deal with the tremendous pain and conflict and contradiction and the emotional hard-rootedness of this conflict, only poetry allows me to get in touch with the deeper feelings. Only poetry allows me to escape the binary they, them, we, us. At least that's for me. So I wrote this poem and I just thought I would read it. It starts off my column this past week. And it's called No Security. 6 infants under a white sheet, 6 heads revealed, or 5.5, the remainder of 1 blown into the Gazan dust by Israeli bombs. The teenage girl, face resting on the ground, the light joy of a music festival splattered red on her party dress, courtesy of Hamas. Wages and ancestry of hatred and revenge. History claws its way into today, shaking off the sliver of security that was never truly there. There is no security in fences and walls. No security in guards and gates. No security in armed to the teeth. No security in underground tunnels. No security in safe rooms. No security in the killing of innocents. Thank you. Read it again. Robert, under the Robert Bly rule poetry reading, wants me to read it again, and I will.
Well, now we've heard the bones of that poem. Let's hear.
That's what's really in it.
Let's hear the heart.
Okay. It's called No Security. 6 infants under a white sheet, 6 heads revealed, or 5.5. The remainder of 1 blown into the Gazan dust by Israeli bombs. The teenage girl, face resting on the ground, the light joy of a music festival splattered red on her party dress, courtesy of Hamas. Wages and ancestry of oppression and terror. Wages and ancestry of hatred and revenge. History claws its way into today, shaking off the sliver of security that was never truly there. There is no security in fences and walls, no security in guards and gates, no security in armed to the teeth, no security in underground tunnels, no security in safe rooms, no security in the killing of innocents.
It's about 4 minutes to 12, and I'm going to do the unprecedented thing of saying, we'll pause a little bit at 12, and then I'm going to at least go till 12:15. Yeah. So anybody else want to say something? And you folks on Zoom can do so by simply unmuting or wave or raise your hand electronically, and we'll see it. Paul will keep an eye out for it. Wally? Okay. I don't see him. Oh, there he is. You need to unmute, Wally, if you want to.
I am unmuted now.
Okay.
I just wanted to tell you that my mother passed away on the 8th, Wednesday morning. Well, and I'd been spending hours meditating with her, sitting holding her hand. She fell with anger. She was angry. It's the caregiver hadn't placed her vest in the right spot on her walker. And somehow that anger obscured her remembering to hold on to something while she transitioned from a walker to her scooter. This is what she told me, actually. But she didn't tell me that she just said I was angry. And that seemed to dominate a lot of her life, her anger. And as she lay there in the rehab unit and hospice at her home, she just softened up and started to give, express her love, her gratitude, and her appreciation to me and to Lois for the 6 years we had her here and cared for her. And we just, Lois is like, why did it take her dying to say, I appreciate you. I thank you. I know I was hard to live with. And so she spread her love that way. And yet she also was fighting my sister, who was there the whole time while she was dying. Passive aggressive behavior on the part of my mom when my sister was caring for her. Go figure. Why can't we just, in the theme of all of this day here, realize that we are just needing to spread our love and our appreciation to each other. So that's what I wanted to say. And I wish you all be able to show the love that you have for those that you care for, and particularly for those with whom you have a troubled relationship. Thank you.
Thank you, Wally. I witnessed it. You were very fine with your mother all those years.
Thank you, Robert.
She was a really important teacher.
And thank you for the journey group where we really dove deeply into grief and dying. That really informed a huge amount for my weeks with her.
So it is noon. If any of you have to go, please don't feel bad about it. It's okay to go. Thanks for being here. So we are open for sharings of the heart. a memory just came through of a talk that I listened to. I never did get the fellow's name. He's an Israeli writer who is clear that there's no sides. But he had a piece of advice that I find really helpful, which is this is not the way he said it, but when you meet someone like around this issue, when you meet someone who's really angry and intolerant and aggressive, look beyond that to see the gaping wound. In my terminology, look for the trauma. Because if we look for the trauma, we don't get reactive in the same way. It's instead of, well, I'll defend my position, we shift into, wow. And I can see how much you're hurting, though you may not say that because an angry person doesn't want to hear that. They probably don't know how much they're hurting. Or it's so much they can't possibly feel it. Actually, I'm flashing back to an encounter with my son a long time ago. He was in high school and he was moving out of my house. Divorce. And he was really angry. It was happening in the driveway. He was really angry, and he was also crying behind it. I mean, both were happening. And I said, well, I can see how sad you are. And he raged at me. He didn't want to be told I could see his sadness. He wanted to know he was angry and getting the hell out of there. So if we're going to wade into the middle of these very powerful topics, we really need to be grounded in compassion. I mean, really. The light is on.
Somebody made a suggestion to do a meta meditation. Unless you want to use the microphone.
We'll close with a loving kindness meditation. Thank you. Great idea. That way we'll button things up a little bit for us. Anything anybody wants to say? Please speak the thing that you want to say that you think is stupid or not worth saying, or because very often that's coming right out of the group and has great importance. Martin, come on up. And let me suggest when you're talking to the mic, take off your mask because it makes a huge difference.
First of all, thanks, Robert, for today and last Sunday also were tremendously helpful in recommending the Jack Cornfield Dharma talk as well that I highly recommend if you haven't heard. And I appreciate you saying, speak up the thing that you're worried or not sure if it's the right thing to say at the right time, because that's where I was sitting there. So
it better be good.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I want to say is, I think in your braveness for talking about the ceasefire, as well, because I know it's very controversial, and I myself am Jewish, and I have a perspective that is very complicated, and just wanted to share that I think that it's important to notice, to think about when talking about trauma and when talking about the idea of the ceasefire, and kind of what are the roadblocks to that, is the trauma that there also are plans by Hamas to continue the onslaught. And so the trauma is there at the highest levels of government and at the medium levels and at the low levels of, well, if we stop, what's going to happen? But if we don't stop, we know what's going to happen. So it's all about trauma. I agree, and I think it's just important to consider that, because it kind of completes that picture. So, anyways, thanks.
Thank you.